Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and guys, just before we get too far into this, guys, let's just admire this unbelievable pumpkin jersey from the Islanders. Let's admire it for a minute. Okay, we've done enough of that. All right, so before we get too far into this video, guys, I want to give some credit to ESPN. They were the ones that helped me get the content for today's video, so make sure to check out their ESPN's goaltending duo rankings, and it's been released all over the place, and obviously it's a very contested topic because there's always people that say our goaltending's better than theirs, their goaltending is better, and this one and that. It's all about perception. It's all about perception, especially at this point in the season because nobody's played any hockey yet. It's very hard to decide who's good and where. And especially when you look at the third team on this list, when you get that far, again, I'm kind of teasing you guys here, those top three, it's more about what they did last season than what they are overall. All right, so we're going to start off at the bottom and work our way up. So the Arizona Coyotes are 32nd. I'm not going to go over every team, but the Coyotes are interesting because they probably had one of the best three-headed monster goaltending tandems in the league. They had Darcy Kemper, Antti Raanta, and Adin Hill. All three of them are gone. They've replaced them with Carter Hutton and Josef Kozenar. A little bit of a downgrade there, but we know what the Coyotes are doing. That's okay. Definitely a different tandem. I look at 28 in particular. That's the Detroit Red Wings. I think they're actually better than that. If I'm going to be honest, you have Thomas Greiss and Alex Nedeljkovic. I don't think that's going to be correct by the end of the season. Definitely shouldn't be high 27, which is the Oilers, who are right ahead of them with Koskinen and Smith. I don't know about that. Let me know what you guys think, but I don't agree with that one at all. Let's take a look here. Interesting. So the Maple Leafs are at 19. Now, again, I have the rankings up there for you guys, but at 19 we have the Maple Leafs, Peter Mrazek and Jack Campbell. I think a lot of people would say they should be higher than that. I actually agree with this. I think they're a little bit, in the middle of the pack. I don't think they're this great goalie tandem that maybe is being perceived. And you look at the Hurricanes at 17. That's interesting because you have Freddie Anderson from the Leafs and Antti Raanta, who was from the Arizona Coyotes. And, they really thought they bolstered up their goaltending. Is it that much better than Nedeljkovic and Mrazek, which they had last year, and Reimer? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how it goes this year. But again, they've also had really good defenses in front of the Hurricanes. That isn't necessarily the case this time around. It's definitely a different looking team. Now looking at 13, this one's interesting in Boston. The Boston Bruins have a completely new goalie tandem. They've got Linus Ullmark from Buffalo in free agency and Jeremy Swayman, who is a guy internally that has continued to move up the ranks in Boston and was probably projected to be the starter or the heir to the throne to Tuukka Rask, but he had a couple hiccups last season, and a guy like Linus Ullmark may have just taken away that spot from a guy like Swayman, but people are definitely high on Jeremy Swayman this season, so that should be interesting. Now, a team that's very high, 12 and 11 in particular. At 12, we've got the Montreal Canadiens. Now, Carey Price is not starting this season, which means it's probably going to be Carey Price. Carey Price is hurt. This is a situation where Jake Allen, the backup, will probably be the starter for the beginning of the season. And you also have, who do they still have back there? Is Charlie Lindgren still there? Or is it the other guy? So that's going to be interesting to see who the Habs' third goalie is. Again, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Why are you talking about the third goalie? But for the Habs, especially to start the year with an unhealthy Carey Price to start the season, I'm surprised they're at 12. And then at 11, they really must like UC Saros. At 11 is the Nashville Predators, UC Saros, and David Rittich. David Rittich has had some level of success. He really had his kind of, his light to fame when he was with the Calgary Flames. He really, did well there and was a good goalie. Ended up going to Toronto. Things didn't go perfectly, to say the least, in Toronto. Now he ends up in Nashville, and I think that's a pretty good group there. But again, it really relies on UC Saros doing what he did last season. Now at number 10, they've got the Vancouver Canucks. You got Thatcher Demko and Yaroslav Halak. I think Yaroslav Halak is a very underrated goalie. He's been with the Boston Bruins for a couple years. He was with the New York Islanders before that. He actually got sent down to Bridgeport at one point under the Garth Snow era, which a very interesting time there. So interesting to see that. So now that we're in the top 10, we're just going to go over all the top 10. I'm kind of doing this now. At number 9, the Florida Panthers. Talk about perception. This is a team in particular that I'm really watching because I don't know if they're number 9. A lot of people would say, yeah, they agree. They're definitely a top 10 goalie team. Sergey Babrowski, look how good he was. And Spencer Knight, look how good Spencer Knight was in a small sample size during the playoffs and the end of the regular season. Now, we know how bad Bobrovsky was last year, and really his whole time in Florida has been pretty much a full-on struggle for Bobrovsky. So, is he a top goalie? And then you got Spencer Knight, who I love. I really want to see Spencer Knight do well, but in a full 82-game schedule. Yes, I know he's not going to play all 82 games, but is Bobrovsky going to be able to be that the lifesaver? You have to throw the raft out when maybe Spencer Knight drowns a little bit because he is a young goalie. Can Bobrovsky go in there and bail him out? Now, again, I think the Florida Panthers have made some changes to their blue line, which also will maybe help insulate Spencer Knight's development. But even with that, you're playing a really tough division with high potent offenses. The Tampa Bay Lightning, the Toronto Maple Leafs, even the Boston Bruins. You still got Bergeron, Pasternak, and Marchand, right? So the Bruins are still in the mix. Montreal Canadiens, maybe not the most explosive offensive team, but still, and the Ottawa Senators, who are looking decent once they get Tkachuk signed. So it's going to be interesting to see that. At number 8, the Chicago Blackhawks. Talk about a complete 180. They had the worst goaltending tandem going into last year. They had Subban and Delia, right? Now Kevin Lankinen, who came up from Rockford, actually looked pretty good. He's now the backup. And you bring in the reigning Vezina Trophy winner here in 2021 as best goaltender of the league, and Marc-Andre Fleury. And I think there is definitely some reason to believe that will continue. But again, it's perception. Will Marc-Andre Fleury have the same success in Chicago that he was able to have in Vegas under Pete DeBoer's offense or defense? That's going to be the question here. At number 6, you got the New York Rangers. Oh, hold up. Number 7, the Golden Knights, the team that Fleury was most recently on. And listen, I mean, I like Leonard and Brossoit. I think that's a good tandem. It's definitely a lot cheaper than Fleury and Leonard, which is probably the reason they did that this summer. But I do like that. I really think there's a lot of promise there. We've seen Brossoit be a very good backup to Hellebuck in Winnipeg. I think that can continue on the West Coast with Vegas. Obviously, I love Robin Leonard and everything he's meant, especially his time with the Islanders. So I really, maybe a little bit of a bias there, but I think he is a very good goalie for the most part. So at 6, we've got the New York Rangers. So the Rangers, again, talk about, it's perception, because this was the perception of the Rangers goaltending going into last season. Igor Shesterkin, this big-name Russian goalie coming in. He played, he kind of sat behind, watching Lundqvist kind of cripple in between the pipes in the bubble against the Hurricanes. And then it became Shesterkin's team from then forward once Lundqvist got bought out. And Georgiev didn't have a good season last year. I mean, Shesterkin had a good season. Again, a young goalie in a rebuilding Rangers team. But again, the expectations were higher for Georgiev and maybe more Georgiev. And that's why I'm surprised to see them in the top 10 here. But again, it's that perception that they got better and that they're in a big market. That's another thing to remember here. So again, there may be some bias there. At number 5, we got the Winnipeg Jets. You got Connor Hellebuyck and Eric Comrie. This is all it's all Connor Hellebuyck and nothing with Eric Comrie. He was the third goalie before they brought in Brossoit from Edmonton. So I don't think they see Comrie as this really good backup. It's really the tandem of Hellebuyck maybe taking more of that load. And again, kind of surprised to see them in the top 5 because I think there's better goalie tandems, not just one goalie. I think Hellebuyck as one goalie by himself is a great starter, one of the best in the league, always going to be in the conversation for Vezina. But with Comrie there, I'm surprised they cracked the top 5. Now at number 4, talk about perception. This one's interesting. You've got the Colorado Avalanche, and you got Darcy Kemper and Pavel Francouz. Pavel Francouz was awful for the Avalanche last season, and that's why they relied a lot on Philip Grubauer. So for the Avalanche, Joe Sakic, there was perception that maybe he didn't fully buy into Philip Grubauer. Has he bought into Darcy Kemper as the replacement? We're going to find that out this year. Again, he is on a pending, he has a contract next summer. He may be playing for another big contract this summer. So expect a good season from Kemper. And Francouz can't play any worse than he did last year. But again, one of the best defenses in the league is in Colorado. So when you've got a defense with Makar and a defense with guys like Devon Toews, Eric Johnson, Bowen Byram, all those guys there, is it fair to say that their goaltending is just that good? Or is it their defense that's making their goaltending look good? Again, it's all about the perception. That's the theme of today's video, is the perception. What we're going to see on the ice come the second week of October could be completely different from what we're saying right now. I think that's something that you do have to remember here. At number 3, talk about perception. It's Philip Grubauer and Chris Drieger. Now, this is interesting because Drieger came onto the scene as a nobody in Florida. He was a guy nobody talked about. It was always Sergey Babrowski and eventually Spencer Knight. Nobody even put in the conversation that Chris Drieger would be there. But here he is, and he was supposed to be the starter for the Kraken this season until they went out and signed Grubauer. Now, again, Grubauer is going to be tested here in Seattle, and it's going to be a good test. I think it's interesting they have the Seattle and Colorado goalie tandems right next to each other, because we're going to get an idea of just how good Grubauer is on a maybe lesser defense than what he had in Colorado, or just a less skilled team in general. He's probably going to face more rubber than he did with the Avalanche. Chris Drieger, I think we're going to see what he really is as a legitimate backup now, not in this weird three-way goalie system he was in Florida. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out with these two guys in particular. But again, third best goalie tandem in the league. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because even when the season begins, right? Again, you could kind of tell, but if the Kraken start off the season, 15-0, it's all great goaltending. And if they're 0-15, are they going to say it's goaltending, or are they going to say, it could be a combination of things, just not enough skill on the team? Are they going to blame goaltending at all? Again, with number 3 goaltending duo going into the season, maybe that's not the case. Now, number 2, this one reminds me a lot of the Winnipeg Jets at 5, and that is the Tampa Bay Lightning, coming off 2 consecutive Stanley Cups, going for a three-peat. And I know my Lightning fans, shout out to you guys, have been very vocal in the comments, every video about the Lightning. We're going for the three-peat. The Rays are going to win the World Series. And who else is down there? The Bucks are going to win another championship. They're living on a high note right now. Again, they might have to get, taken out of the clouds for a little bit to realize, what the reality is. But, hey, listen, they're partying it up down there, having a good time, and let them keep doing that. So they got Vasilevsky and Brian Elliott, and that's a good tandem. Brian Elliott was a good goalie for the most part in Philly. I think he was being asked of too much in Philly. That's why the Flyers let him go. And that just wasn't going to work out. So I think in a lesser role with Vasilevsky may play a little bit less because they are more comfortable with a guy like Elliott. But I think this is a good group there. And again, that Tampa Bay Lightning defense is a juggernaut. So how good is their goaltending when your defense is so good? And that leads to number 1, and that is the New York Islanders. The New York Islanders, according to ESPN's goaltending duo rankings, is the number 1 goaltending duo between Semyon Varlamov and Ilya Sorokin. Now, Semyon Varlamov has not been at training camp for the Islanders. He has been injured. So kind of like the situation with the Montreal Canadiens and Carey Price, it's going to be a lot more focused on the backup, which for the Islanders isn't really a backup. It's a duo between 1A and 1B between Varlamov and Sorokin. So Sorokin probably going to be able to get an opportunity to really gain the trust and the respect of the management here early in the season, gain some respect, get some confidence early, play a lot of games while Varlamov is still healing. So, again, you want to talk about perception. The way the Islanders play defense does that have something to do with this? And you also have to remember the Islanders' goaltending coaching staff is out of this world. Mitch Korn, Piero Greco, very, very good, just solid developmental goalie coaches. And that's what we've seen the Islanders be able to push out really good goalie tandems every year because of that coaching staff, because of that defense, because of their coach Barry Trotz. All of that together allows the Islanders to have the best ESPN goaltending duo ranking. So is it, the most skilled goaltenders in the league? Do the Islanders, Varlamov and Sorokin, are they the best? Not necessarily. But with the system they're in, they fit in perfectly. And the Islanders, perceptually, have the best goalie duo in the 2021-2022 NHL season. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you agree with these rankings, or do you think maybe it could be a little bit more up in the air? Who do you have as your number one duo rankings for goaltenders going into this year? Let me know down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, and more videos just like this one, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up, and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you again next time.